Hello, 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 amigas, and welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. Okay, exciting, because I have my good friend here, Eva Macias, and you all know if you want to talk about money, mula, mucho dinero, we got to talk to the person. Her name is Eva Macias. Welcome, Eva, again to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast.
Thank you, Jackie. I love you. I love your audience, and I'm just so grateful to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so truly honored that you're here for a second time because we're in different financial circumstances. So, amigas out there who haven't listened to the first podcast, Eva has an amazing book, The Latina's Guide to Money. You must get it. Actually, we're going to put it in the show notes so that you can grab it and get your copy. And also, amigas, she's going to be on the Amiga Empowered Movement event, which is in March. And so you get to meet her in person. So after this conversation, if you have a ton of questions, you get to get them answered at the event. So definitely come and check her out. So, oh my God, Amiga, Eva, last time we were on the podcast, it was during the pandemic. It was a little slower, but now we're in different circumstances. And I know that you have such a wealth of knowledge, and I really want amigas to get a taste of that. So I know you're all about educating and empowering Latinas to achieve financial freedom. So how can they attain financial freedom during this time?
Wow. So yes, last time we were on, it was pandemic. It was definitely different. I had also just had a baby, and I think there was just so much uncertainty and we didn't know. And now we are now in a place where we still don't know, but we know that we are now in the results of what we didn't know 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago or so. Right. And I think the biggest thing that I have seen is the lack of action that people take and don't take, whether it be through a pandemic or through turbulent times. And that's one of the things that I want all women, specifically women. Why? Because we live longer, right? Statistically, we live longer, ladies.
Yes.
That's a great thing. And we are the caretakers at home, which means, as I mentioned, as a mommy or, whatnot, but we stay at home a little bit more, whether it be if we have a baby, we got to stay home. And so those things affect us in the long game of money. It's not just what comes in every single month, what goes out every single month. It's the long game of money and understanding, right? Money is a game. And where are you in the game? Where are you in the game? Are you just beginning? Are you in the middle chapters or in the middle of the game, or are you ending the game? And when I mean ending, really the only ending to any financial is death, right? And the way I always talk about, especially in these times, is reverse engineer your financial plan. So reverse engineer, what I mean by that is, if you were to be gone today, what would you have wanted to accomplish with your finances? And now more than ever, especially because before 2020, it was all about money. We really, if you notice, we never really talked much about health. I don't ever remember since 2008 until the pandemic, there was not a big concern about health. It was just, do you have enough money? Money. Mortgages, which again, mortgages are still coming up. Whereas of now, it's not only about money, but where does your health stand in this game of money? Because the reason why we are in where we're at is because the world shut down because of COVID. And that all relates to health, which is something that financially people don't prepare, and you really don't know how to prepare for that. Because if you're like, but I'm healthy, yes, but that doesn't mean that will be forever. Or that may also mean that if you are healthy, fantastic, how can you bank on your health? Truly, when it comes to that. And so I think right now, where there's still a lot of uncertain times, there's elections, there's long haul COVID, there's other things in COVID, other just a whole lot of chaos in this world. I invite women to just sit down and quiet their mind and ask themselves, what are financial priorities that they want to accomplish before they pass.
Mm.
And that allows, I believe, the priorities to be simple and clear instead of trying to do everything and then get nothing done.
Yes. Where do you think they should start?
So first things first, and I'm going to tell you, I am biased now. I wasn't biased in the past, but now I'm going to tell you, I am absolutely biased when it comes to life insurance. I actually used to associate life insurance agents with cars, like sleazy car salesmen.
Yeah.
I just did, honestly.
Mhm.
I had my own experience and it was horrible. And the reason why I say start there is because there's unknown events. And the biggest fear for most people, even now, like baby boomers, their biggest fear is not death, but running out of money. And so I'm learning from their trials and tribulations, right? I'm learning from them as well. And so I would say if you have good health, immediately get yourself a life insurance. Immediately, simultaneously, get yourself a living trust, especially if you own real estate. Get yourself a living trust. And whether your employer provides it or not, start contributing increased contributions to your retirement plans. Like these three things are a must. For what reasons? Life insurance only gets more expensive as you age. Life insurance is based on many things, but the predominantly two main predominantly things is age and health. So tomorrow I'll be a day older, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully not, but I'll also, if there was something that would come up, if I don't know about it today, I might know about it tomorrow. And so if you already know you're in good health, and even if you don't think you're in the best health, there's still a lot of information that people aren't aware of. So I would say begin there, because death can happen to anyone at any given time. It's such an unknown event, and it doesn't have to be
COVID really told us.
And absolutely, COVID actually said you could be healthy or not healthy, or you could have the vaccine and not the vaccine. Like the world's going to do what the world's going to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also an increase in anxiety. There's also, which means an increase in medications being taken, which some insurance companies will not insure you if you're on certain medications.
Shut up.
Yes. Yes. So life insurance has multiple things. They take your financial background, meaning making sure that you don't file for bankruptcy. So money, your health, meaning they'll take a look at your medical records. They'll take a look at your driving records. They'll obviously ask you for an application and they'll do a medical exam. So depending on what shows up in all those different areas, that's how they determine whether you're insurable or not. And also the longer we procrastinate, like I'm 41, but I'm going to be 42 in January. So if I'm applying for a new life insurance today, I'm closer to 42 pricing than I would be at 41. So every 6 months, closer to your next birthday. And so,
oh my God. So I'm 48 and I'm like closer to 50. Christ. I better get on the ball now.
So those are those little things that most people don't talk about.
Yeah.
But why life insurance when we're not talking about the market? Because we are going to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
More importantly is the fact that there's more health concerns now. There's more suicides. There's more, a lot of crazy things that I don't remember 15, 20 years ago, my siblings going through it. And I've been in financial services for 15 years. And when I started in 2008, I do not remember. I remember it being chaotic and stressful when it came to money, but I don't remember it being chaotic and stressful when it came to money and health combined.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that when money comes out, that's one form of like stress and anxiety. But now when your health is also being affected, it spirals a lot quicker than it would be if it was only money, right? You can kind of throw up your hands and just be like, it's just money. I have my health. I can find a job. I can move. I can do this. But imagine if you couldn't now because of unforeseen things or whatnot. So I'd say that's why I always say I am biased to it where I wasn't before. Start there. If you are and you own real estate, get a living trust. And the reason being, and I'm going to share why specifically, I see a lot of divorce rates going up right?
Yep.
And that means that as you get divorced and then you remarry or you reconnect with somebody, now you're planning for not only your partner, but also your children, potentially your partner's kids. And so if you don't have that very crystal clear in writing, if there's a death of a spouse from your second marriage or from a blended family or whatever the case may be, it gets a little chaotic. And I have seen a lot more of that.
Oh, girl, you're preaching to the choir. I've seen so many as someone who has done family law and estate planning. It is a freaking crazy nightmare if you don't get your ducks in a row and in order in estate planning. Oh my God, even like getting a prenup, super important.
Yeah,
If you're on a different financial platform, hello, it's super important.
And it is okay. The way I look at it, if you cannot have these difficult conversations with your partner, then you should question the partnership, because someone should be able to talk to their partner, right? Whether it be their business partner, their life partner, their whatever partner, right? And if you can't feel comfortable asking them those questions, then you should probably question the relationship. And so ask the difficult questions now, because if not, they become even more difficult in the future when there's emotions that are extremely high, or there's a death of someone and you're needing to take care of financial situations in a time where you're probably the most vulnerable. I personally do not like taking care of anything that is major or super important when I'm at my most vulnerable stages, because I don't feel my best. Yeah. I just want to be left alone and be hugged.
I think many amigas can resonate with that. Definitely. I know that when you're in a high stressful situation, you know, and you want to be vulnerable, but you don't even know when or how to be, because
Right.
who do you trust?
Right.
Right? Who do you trust? So
Absolutely.
let's get our financial plan in order so that we don't even have to address this.
It becomes easier and there's already clarity, which allows people to move on. I think a lot of financial problems is we just don't talk about it. And sometimes we make up these stories, right? Because we do, women, and it happens to us.
Yes.
I don't know if we're just wired this way, where sometimes we make like a simple question spiral so much in our head that we made such a big story about it, versus if we just ask, you realize, oh, that didn't turn out the way I actually had planned, because it was much easier than what you had expected. And I think that's the biggest thing, is don't make up stories in your head about how your partner is going to be or how they're not going to be. Most of the time, if not always, your partner, male or female, is a perfect reflection of the areas you're not willing to go.
Ooh, I love that. You heard it here, amigas.
And that's sometimes a little hard to swallow, because let me tell you something, my husband is also a type A personality as well as I am. And there's times where I'm like, oh, and I have to like kind of take a step back and ask myself, like, why is he my perfect mirror right now? And when I answer that is when I usually get the like there's just this calmness about, okay, everything's going to be okay. And maybe I don't approach it in that moment, whether it be money or not, right? And I approach it the next day about money. Like I recently brought up a proposal to him, and I was super excited about it. And immediately he was my devil's advocate. And I love that about him. But at the same time, I don't love that about him, right? And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. And I was so excited, and I was upset at him because I was excited and I wanted him to be excited. But like, we're just, you've seen more than I've seen in this business proposal. And I was like, oh, you're right about that. I immediately wanted him to jump on my bandwagon of happiness, but he has no idea. He hasn't seen everything behind it. He hasn't seen the numbers, the stats, where I have. So I immediately am like, oh, but it's fantastic. He's like, what's fantastic about it? I don't have everything. So sometimes, ladies, just take a moment to slow down, look at really the areas that you want to address, ask the questions, and ask how that person is a perfect mirror of yourself. And I hear this often because I think this is also something that in the Latina culture, it could be our fuel, or it can be our crutch, and that is trauma.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
also believe we have all gone through trauma,
Mhm.
and it shows up in different ways for different people. And recently, this amazing therapist that I follow, and I can't recall her name right now, she put a bubble underneath not a bubble, she put a balloon underwater, and she was forcing it to stay down. But yet at one point, if you can't continue to suppress that balloon, it's going to jump up and pop and make a mess.
Yeah.
And that's how she addresses trauma, that some of us can be running our life that way. So it's like, you have these bursts of, you lose it to the world type of thing. And these traumas continue to come up. And I can tell you, I have a laundry list of traumas that I'm sure if I look back, these were all the things that were traumatic that maybe I didn't even know were that traumatic.
Right.
However, I do believe that it is important that you don't get stuck there. Because one of the things that I have seen, even with some of my friends, is that they get stuck in that, and that is it. Where, yes, your trauma of money will repurpose if you're not willing to redirect it.
Yes. Yes.
And when you redirect it, it won't come up because you're not taking the same path.
Right.
And now at that point, because for example, my parents didn't educate me about money, so am I going to always think, oh, I am broke or I am this because of them? No. Because in trauma, there's technically three sides. There's one, there's left, right, middle, right? And I remember somebody telling me everything you go through in life is a neutral event.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so because it is neutral, I look back at all the traumatic events and I'm like, they were actually not traumatic. They were course correcting where now I need it to be. But we identify that as trauma because we don't know any better.
Yes.
That's the way I look at it, because it's like anything, right? I appreciate down markets. I appreciate chaotic markets, because that's when you know whether all your financial ducks you've been lining up are going to play out or not.
Oh my God, you're giving me chills.
So how can you test the work you've been doing if you don't have turbulent times?
Yeah.
How do you know you can withstand the test of time without these things? Like, it just, life doesn't work all beautiful and, unicorns and pixie dust, even though I wish it did, but it doesn't. And so these times are just a moment to say, either we've had so many years to save or to invest or to do what we needed to do. And if we haven't, this is why we become fearful, because we haven't been willing to redirect our course.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Convenience. We pay a price for convenience. We pay a price for distractions. We pay a price for unhealthy food choices. We pay a price. And so all of it we're seeing is just that, our own drama, our own stuff, plus the world in itself as a whole. And it just gets amplified 10 times more, 100 times more. And if you're on social media, it feels like 1,000 times more.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Girl, I totally get what you're saying. And it's like 10x. Whatever it is, that trauma can be 10x, that your health going downhill can be 10x if you don't catch it and course correct, right? So we're talking about course correcting. How can we course correct our financial status now?
So immediately, I got to tell you this. It might be too late for some. And I got to be the messenger of bad news. I don't like being it, but I'd rather be the messenger of bad news than the messenger of bullshit. And
I love it. Truth talk here at Amiga. Handle your shit.
No, absolutely. Truth talk be told, that some of you are not going to survive. And, whether it be through Jackie's podcast or whether it be through, just social media handles you follow or whatnot, it's not just about following people. It's about implementation of the knowledge you're learning from these people, right? And so for some, it's going to be really tough. And for others, this is a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call that we're going to experience other situations like this. And for some, this is going to be a huge opportunity. And depends on where you at, there's different levels of how to get it together. But I can tell you one thing, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and even in your 50s, immediately, as we were talking about playing the long game and reverse engineering, that is, you don't become wealthy through savings. You become wealthy through investing. Mm-hmm. And so the number one thing is start investing, increase your investing, get familiar with what investing and risk tolerance you have. I know a lot of women, especially once they become widows, they have a less risk tolerance than those that, for example, have two incomes coming in, right? Or if you're the main breadwinner, what does that look like? So I think it's important to identify what's your risk tolerance. And if you don't know much about it, hello, this is why we're here, to help you. Like, where are you? Yeah. People immediately, one of the biggest mistakes that I see just from 15 years that I've been seeing this is people think that the only way they can invest is if they own stocks.
Right.
And that is not true. That is completely not true. That is one of the many ways that you can actually increase your portfolio. You can, investment means it's so wide that you can invest in a business, you can invest in a real estate, you can invest in different mutual funds, you can invest in the indexes, you can invest in bonds, you can invest in so much. And the question is, there's more factors than to just say that, but number one is invest. That is, like, if someone would have told me when I was 19, 18 years old, hey, just put $100 away, watch the money. If it keeps dropping, just pay attention, be aware of it once a month, take a look at that. Even though as a 20, 19-year-old, I would have been clueless. I would have listened if I had a mentor. Yeah. But I didn't, because I didn't have a mentor. My parents didn't educate me on that. So I didn't invest. I invested at 23 when I bought my second property. But even still then, I wasn't investing. I just tippy-toed in that market because I was familiar with it since I was an escrow officer. Right. Then when I got myself into financial services, I was like, oh my God, there's so much. Yeah. So I really do believe that one of the things and how you invest is to invest first and then spend. We do a great job in spending first, getting to invest.
Amigas, you heard it. Invest first.
But just think about logically, right? Just logically, not even knowing about all the twerks and things of investment. But when you are 65 or 60, when you decide to retire, right? Let's just say you didn't properly retire and you look at all your accounts and say, I don't have enough money to retire. Are you going to call Target or Amazon to say, hey, all that money that I spent with you guys, but I never invested in your stocks or I never invested in anything. Can you just give me some of that money back? Because unfortunately, I don't have enough money to retire. You know what they're going to tell you? Nothing. They're going to, it's going to be crickets because nobody does that. They're going to give you the middle finger and be like, what are you talking about, crazy lady? And what I'm saying is that they're not going to be there for you. Right. So, I get it. You're helping them meet their quotas when you're purchasing stuff, and yes, you're helping create jobs. And I know the world spins that way, but not at the cost of your peace of mind when it comes to retirement. Because the biggest thing, Jackie, that I see is 70-year-old women still hustling like they're in their 30s or 40. And that sucks.
No, that's not cool. That's not cool at all.
And majority of them are Latin. Yeah. And I'm like, if there is one thing that I have learned, not only from my family and the women that I continue to follow, but from friends and family members, and like, we are not scared to work. That is not our fear. No. Well, if there is no job, we will create it. Yeah. And we will do what we need to do. We will self-source, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, we need to know about investing, not only in ourselves, but in taking care of our future selves. And the only way you do that is through investments, if your employer doesn't offer you a 401k, don't worry, you can start your own individual account. You can go to the bank, you can reach out to a financial professional like myself. There are so many opportunities. Now, where and how you'll be able to make those investment selections will be based on, do you like the risk tolerance? Yeah. And for example, I am a little bit more conservative than my husband. My husband is definitely a little bit more risk tolerance than I am. I'm not. And why? I always tell him, because as a woman, I always need to make sure that there's some and a little bit more, right? And it's funny because even my pantry reflects it. Like I have all for the next 3 months, and I'll have some like plates and cups and all this thing for the next following 3 months in my garage. That's how I look at money. Not only do I want to have some for now, I want to have some money for the future. And so we do it all the time in our household. So why not do it in our finances?
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
And we're actually really good money managers,
Yeah.
but we don't credit ourselves enough credit to believe that we are, because some of the times we leave it up to our spouse, or we kind of put it on the back burner, or we put it on the end of the priority list. And we shouldn't, because that will affect us in the long-term game. It will, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Invest. The quicker you get on it, the better. I often hear, if you're in your 20s, ladies, I know you have a wide, range of listeners. If you're in your 20s and somebody tells you you have time, now for me, I feel like that's a lie.
That's a lie.
And that is a big lie. I wish somebody, when I was 20, would have told me you don't have time, because then I would have applied myself more. Like instead of buying a house, what if I would have bought 2 or 3 or 4?
Yeah.
I didn't apply myself because the whole time I thought I had time. And so don't believe that lie just because somebody else tells you that. I would say if you have a good mentor, they're going to tell you start immediately.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that when I see 20-year-olds, I'm like, look, this thing about time, what you do have is choice, and time can create that. Time creates choice by the decisions you're making now. And if you think you'll have better choices, in the future, from the lack of your activity, I highly doubt that. You will have a better future with what you continue, right? It's like anything. When is a good time to
When is a good
20 years ago?
Yeah, when is a good time to start? How about now?
How about today? Just click, 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 click. And also because another thing, I don't always encourage everyone to invest in just one thing. I like the diversification of different assets for different people, depending on multiple things: age, health, financial story, background, family. Do you have children? Are you married? What does your spouse do? Is the family healthy? Because you don't always want to have, I learned this, and it was mind blowing to me to learn this. It was, I'm in the financial space. So I always would believe that the more money you have, the wealthier you are. And it wasn't until somebody said it that it clicked. And it says, at the time of retirement, it's not how much you have in your portfolio. It's how much money you will continue to receive, how much income on a monthly basis you will continue to receive for the rest of your life. And that is truly what wealth is. It's not just the number at the end of your portfolio. You might have $4 or $5 million, and that's great, but you can lose that all tomorrow.
Right.
And if that is the number that you're dependent upon your lifetime income, then you have nothing. Yeah. And I've always preached it more in 2008. Now I feel like that's like even a bigger thing. So the way when I do sit with women, it's like, my goal for you is multiple streams of income. And what does that look like? And whether it be, because most people may think, oh, real estate. Yes, that's one of them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But there are other things that guarantee lifetime income without the management of real estate, the property taxes, the insurances. There are other things, but unfortunately, only few will make those decisions on guaranteed lifetime income. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not because it's not available to everyone. It is because you have to have money to invest in those investments. And if you don't have it, then you in essence remove that choice for yourself by not creating the income or the investment for yourself. And I think that's extremely important. Never running out of income is truly what I want to call a recession-proof financial plan. I recently was listening to a gentleman, and he goes, I have at least of about like 16 sources of income coming in, but I only live off of 7. He goes, the other ones are just hanging out. So if my wife says, hey, my money's getting a little bit tight, I just turn one right on. He goes, or if let's just say I need to do some repairs on my house, he's like, I'll look at my investment, which one's next in line, because there is a sequence of investments and how to take them out. And he said, I just look at that. I look at the features of it, take out what's needed, and continue to leave the rest to invest and never to lose a single penny. Because at my age, mind you, they're already retired, 65 to 70 around there. I make sure that I don't ever run out of money. And the only way I could do that is to continue to have multiple streams of income and not live off of all of them just because I can.
Right.
And I was like, that's proper planning. And most people can't even fathom to believe to get 2 to 3 sources of income.
Right.
People believe, oh, but I'm paying into Social Security.
Oh my God.
It's like saying
They won't exist.
it's like you saying that you will your retirement will, or your investments will be dependent upon you buying the lottery ticket.
Yeah. Fat chance. No way.
It's going to change. It's going to decrease. It's government's got their money, their hands on things like that. Actually, and some of them don't even. We haven't made changes to the pension reform. We haven't made any changes to Social Security since I think like 80 something, like 81. I think in 83 there was like 1983 where they were going to finally make some changes to it, and they never did. They never came around to it. So because there's so many things that haven't happened is why we're going to be affected. So I always say the best financial plan is you planning for you.
You planning for you. Yes, I love that. You planning for you. Oh my God. So for amigas out there, what we're hearing here is diversify, invest in anything and everything that you can.
So this is the thing. A lot of people ask me, but what do you invest in?
Mm-hmm.
And it depends, because, for example, if you work for an employer that offers you a retirement plan and they match you, people will only invest in the 401k if they match. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter if they match you or not. Invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
Invest in it, because it is, it's part of it. Let's just say you maximize that investment, right? There you can open up a Roth. Now you're not going to have this huge significant tax break because you're going from a pre-tax to an after-tax investment. But it's not only about that, it's about the fact that you're going to have a second account growing for yourself. Yeah. So sometimes you have to kind of like, oh, if it's not going to benefit me tax purposes, why should I open it? Because you're going to have more money in the future and it's going to be tax-free. So you're going to have an advantage. It's just going to be later.
Right.
And then people will say, okay, so I'm good. I have a 401k and I have an IRA, or I have a Roth IRA. I am good. And I'm like, no, there are other investments. There's what we call non-qualified plans, like the IRA, the Roth IRA, the 401k. You can still continue to contribute to those. And those have, like minimums of $20,000, certain maximums, just depending upon wealth. And that's one. Then there's also life insurance that's used for investing, or I shouldn't say for investing, I take that back. It's for cash value growth. That's the proper word, for cash value growth. And that particular insurance is actually part of the IRS code. It was an insurance created for high earners to be able to put more money in other vehicles to be able to become tax-free and, tax-free sources.
Yeah.
And so there are life insurances that allow you to do that. So there's just so many that when someone says, well, where do I invest first? The truth is, I don't know, because I don't know where you stand, what your income looks like, what your debt looks like, what your student debt looks like, your health, your marital status. Is there 2 people working? Is there 1 person working? All of those things are important to a financial plan.
Yeah.
And so this is why I always say, I don't know. I don't know. This is why God knows the truth is that's why I always tell people, make an appointment, not because I just want you to get on my books, is because I don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
And to be able to give you a recommendation based on, like, for example, the podcast, like listening to this general scope, it's very difficult. But one thing is, the priority is there, investment to take care of yourself and your family.
Yes,
for
sure. Hands down, hands down. And I know that we're getting close to the end here, but I I just wanted you to touch on this whole, like, the financial markets. Like, what is your perspective? What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to continue to tumble down before we get an increase? What's your take?
I don't think we've seen the worst yet.
Me too.
That's I don't think we've seen the worst, because if this was the worst, there's still a lot of people out there spending a lot of money that they don't have. And I don't know if you heard Bank of America is bringing on these like no cost, like back in 2006,
Yeah.
when we bought these crazy mortgages that caused the 2008 meltdown.
Yeah, I read something like that and I thought, okay, are we going back to those times just so that we can continue to live how we are living?
Yes. And so I do believe it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And everybody will say, well, what goes down comes up. Yes. But what's important is understanding, where do you fall in the coming up or going down? If you are in your 60s and 70s and the market took a tank and you're now living off of that income, if you do the numbers, you will not be able to survive, versus someone who's just starting. That's the one thing. Now, yes, everything that does go down does take time to go up. But what happens is people, for example, if you lost 50% of your portfolio, how long does it take you to get that back? You'll have to make 100% just to be able to make 50%.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't think a lot of people understand. They just say, oh, what goes down goes up. So if I had 100,000, now I have 75, it's not so bad. However, that 25 to get it back is going to take you a lot longer than it took you the first time around.
Wow.
And that's why time is money. And that's why I hear that. And so, yes, I do believe it's going to get worse, because I do see still a lot of spending out there. I do believe that we need to tighten our spending, because and this is not whether you're Republican or liberal or Democratic or none of that. We're in an administration that loves to just print money.
Yeah.
And I mean, just imagine that. When has that ever worked? Even in your household, think about that. If money is just going out and going out and going out, and what I don't think people in the bigger scope understand is, we are in $1 trillion of debt.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably take us 35,000 years before we can get out of that debt. And I don't think people really comprehend that. Some people that have 60, 70, $100,000 in debt, they're dying. They'll never get out of that debt. Imagine in the trillions of dollars that we're in as a whole. So if I look at how this country is being ran, I'm like, we love printing money and giving money, but we don't love like creating policy for change and real transformation and education about money. Because how can someone teach about it if they're doing completely opposite from it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Preach, girl, preach.
I do think for anyone listening right now, obviously we're in 2022, towards the end of 2022, and it's beware. And another thing, I know we're coming to an end, like you said, but it doesn't matter what administration is, in leadership. Always prepare yourself for leadership that you like or leadership that you don't like. And that's okay. But the preparation of yourself should be consistent. Even though the leaders in our nation are not always consistent with being their word, that doesn't mean that you can't be consistent with you being your word to take care of yourself and plan for yourself. And do not ever expect the government to take care of you just because they send you a $1,400 check or just don't. Be grateful for it, yes, but it's
Yes, I know. My husband and I were constantly like, what the heck is this check for? For me to go to Javier's and have margaritas? What?
I don't need another check. I need better leadership.
Yes. Yes. Amen. Amen to that.
Yes, so definitely. And one last thing that I do want to speak to your audience.
Yes.
Don't believe the lie that being in debt is a good thing. Because just because debt is a common thing should not be a natural thing for your financial plan to be. I feel like debt has become people's priority instead of savings. And I want to make sure you are aware that if you are in debt, you can get out of it, but not prioritize that before paying yourself first in your retirement account, in your emergency savings account, because credit card companies, when things get a little bit tough, they also tighten up their guidelines and they can slice your credit in half, and there goes your emergency fund or whatever. And so therefore, I notice that everyone I talk to has debt. It is very rare now to talk to, people who don't. And I don't want you to continue to normalize that as a normal behavior when it's not a normal behavior. Debt is you robbing from yourself and giving it to someone else in a way that you're just like, here, grateful, take it all, here you go. No. It should not be, just because it's common should not be normal. And you should say, I am grateful to live without it and be comfortable being in that space.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love this. Debt is robbing from yourself. Imagínate. What the heck?
Right? Like, imagine we all like things and we all buy things, but imagine you bought I mean, I love Target. Who doesn't, right? You go to Target, you spend $300, and for that $300 of seasonal items you just bought, you actually ended up spending $500. And that's if you pay it off within a certain amount of time. And then now it doesn't even, it's like a third of the price because it's on clearance the next 3 months. And for you, you're now paying $600-700 because you forgot to pay that bill off. Like, it logically, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Credit cards, of course. Do I use them? I do. I use them systematically in a way that allows me to play the game of credit. But and it's important to know the games and how to play them. And so it is important. Why? Because then you have an opportunity at you even winning at your own game. There's nobody else's game but yours.
Yeah.
And how we keep tally is through your money and asking yourself, am I playing the short game or the long game? Some people need to play the long game, but their actions are playing the short game. Whereas the people in the short game are playing the long. So a lot of my older folks that I have clients, they, even though they're now in their shorter, like they're making decisions really for the next 5 to 10 years, they're planning for 30 years. Whereas if the people that should be planning for 30 years can't even see the next 5 to 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
That's so important. And be paranoid about not having money. People are not paranoid about debt. They live perfectly fine. Stressful, I'm sure, but they are okay with that. Be paranoid about not funding your priorities.
Oh my God, that brings chills. Amigas.
Yes, be paranoid about that, because then that means, it's raining outside. You'll never get left without cover. You'll always have an umbrella. You'll have the rain jacket. You'll have the boots, by you being able to always prepare yourself first. There's a saying, right, Jackie? I don't know if your mom has ever used this. Mujer prevenida vale por dos.
Yes.
Anything in money, ladies.
Yes. You heard it here, amigas. So, Eva, what are your tips for how Amiga can handle your ship? Because I know you've been giving us, but specifically, what can you say? 1 or 2?
Wow. So your husband is not your retirement plan. As much as you love him, as much as you are a partner, and as much as you are one, he is not your retirement plan.
Oh my God.
Until he dies for you to have money, because you will be broke. That's 1. And 2, well, this is more on we're going to talk money. We need to equally talk health. And without your health, your money doesn't have as much value. And so whatever you need to do to create a better version of yourself, if it's you don't eat out 1 day out of the week, then do that. Because I noticed that as I shifted my eating and my sleeping, actually more eating than it was sleeping, because I didn't sleep enough, right? As a new mom, you don't sleep. And so I needed to at least get the proper nutrition. I also noticed that there is clarity in my brain. So fueling your health is equally as important as fueling your finances.
Ooh, amigas, and you heard it here. Fueling your health is equally as important as fueling your finances. And your hobby is not your retirement plan. I love that. Oh my God.
We
Eva,
love them, but they're not.
yes, I know. Eva, you're always just keeping it real, telling us what we need to know, not what we want to hear, because we need to know this stuff. And I'm just excited that you were available to be on the podcast and to share your message to the world, because this is a podcast heard globally. And amigas, for those of you who are interested, would love to have you at the Amiga Empowerment event, which is here in Los Angeles, California. And my girlfriend here, Eva, is going to be on the wealth panel. I'm so excited. This is March 24th on a Friday. And so we'll drop some links in the show notes so that you can be a part of this. And so, Eva, I am so, so, so honored that you took the time here to be with us, because I know your time is super valuable. And I love you to death. I can't wait for us. Can't wait for us to be on the stage in March. Oh my God.
Oh, I'm excited for you. And this is the first time we share stage together. And this
Yes.
is actually the first time from baby that I go out in public, like not in public, but like actually on a stage. So I'm super excited about your event and just what it's going to be, what it is already, because I know it's already there's a lot of pre-work to the event. So I already know it's fantastic and I'm excited about it. I don't only show up as a speaker, but I show up as also receiving the gifts that you want to share with everybody. Because I do believe that the reason why we've been such good friends is because we want to leave this world a better place than what it has been in the past and currently. And I think as women of personalities that know that we can create, we will do whatever it takes. And I just want to honor you in this moment of saying thank you, because you've had your story and it hasn't been easy, and you've had tons of things you can address. And even through all of we women are just rocks
Yes.
with a beautiful little heart inside of us. And
Yes.
so, and I say rocks not in a bad way, but in a way that just says, no matter what storm we're going through, we will always show you love and give you love. And I think that's your event is going to be a love wealth. Like there's so much information, because you're so well connected with so many amazing humans that want to leave this world a better place.
Yes. You gave me the chills, amiga. I so honor this and honor you. And I know that this episode is so special. And I know that in March, we're just going to rock it. I mean, because we vibe. And I think you're an Aquarius too, aren't you? Yes. So, pues por eso.
Tell us now, because we will make sure we show you.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Eva, for being on Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. Thank you.